Conversation with Ron McLean.
Welcome to In Conversation. On the show today, Lindseys Vonn and PK Subban. Subban's wrote a book. That's Carl, the author, How We Did It, Three Boys Making It to the National Hockey League. And one of the neat moments in the book is when Carl, PK's dad, talks about weapons of mass distraction, how you need focus. And prior to the 2002 Salt Lake City Olympics, which was Lindseys Vonn's first, she placed sixth in the combined. She's 17 years old. Well, in an unrelated story, the national women's hockey team in Canada went to Emerald Lake, just outside of Lake Louise, to prepare for 6 weeks. A lot of physical training, but mostly mental training. And they talked about things that could distract them on their way to trying to win the gold medal. And number one on the list was refereeing. And as fate would have it, at the Olympics themselves, in the gold medal final, Canada drew 8 straight penalties against the USA, and they were starting to come a little undone. And at a critical moment, Dana Antel, a player who rarely spoke up, and she uttered 2 words, Emerald Lake. And that kind of broke the tension and reminded the players that they weren't supposed to let the refereeing get to them. And in fact, Canada won the gold medal. So it's a great example. And what interests me most is Emerald Lake. I don't know if you know, but Lindseys Vonn, her favorite color is green. And when PK proposed to Lindsay, he presented her with an emerald ring because that's his birthstone for the month of May. So there's an amazing connection to Emerald Lake, just outside of Lake Louise, where Lindseys Vonn won 18 times on the World Cup circuit. They call it Lake Lindsay, just like they called Whistler Vancouver when she won in 2010, the Olympic gold medal. And of course, she found her man in Canada. What is it about Canada and Lindseys Vonn? We're about to find out.
Let's go. Yep. Snap.
Lindseys' birthday coming up. Oh, look at her nice little cake.
Wow. What rotten luck. She swallowed a
Ah.
This is Lindsay and PK, and we're doing what are you doing? Can you just do like 5 minutes with like no picking?
How did you first see the ice hockey?
Yeah! I scored on my goal! Why did I get the ice hockey? I wanted to score goals like that. Bring it down slow. Yep.
Montreal, we are thinking of you. Everything's going to be all right. Ça va bien? Allez!
Hey, Lindsay. Hey, PK. It's just a thrill to have you on In Conversation. And it's funny, we just showed, so Lindsay, you're 82 World Cup wins, 4-time overall champ, Olympic champion, greatest skier of all time or close to it. And PK over there is an Olympic champion as well, and 2-time World Junior champion and a Norris Trophy winning star, National Hockey League defense. And the highlight montage we just showed is none of that. Because you know why? Because of Tub Time and trivia and all the incredible things you two do. I would like to ask, I'll get to all your sports heroes, and we know a lot of that, but Lindsay, you first. Lady Gaga, Madonna, Beyonce, your showbiz, you have that in you. Where does that come from, and when did it start?
I'm definitely not in the same conversation as Beyonce and Lady Gaga.
I disagree. I put her in that conversation.
Oh, thank you. No, I don't know. I just kind of always been good around the camera, and not as good as PK, of course, but I don't know. I like being open with people. I like talking to people. I like sharing my story, and I like being authentic. So I don't know. I've just kind of always been like that. Also, I think my grandparents, like my grandpa and my dad, they're very charismatic. They're big characters, and I think I'm not as good at one-liners as my grandfather was, but I certainly try.
How about you, PK?
Oh, man. I think Lindsay and I together, we feed off each other a lot. So that's why it comes off, I guess, organically for us anyway. And that's the feedback that we always get. And that's what we want. I mean, we don't try to be something we're not. I think we have fun with each other. And it's been awesome. I mean, the past 2.5 years has been great for us, both in our relationship and also having fun during our business stuff, whether it's social media or production stuff. But me personally, I mean, I always go back to it. My mom always tells me the first time she's ever seen me do an interview is when I was at the Edmonton Brick Super Novice tournament when we won the tournament. And I was the MVP, and I did an interview right there on the ice. And she's like, I couldn't believe how comfortable you were in front of the camera. So I guess that was the first time she knew that I wouldn't be running away from them.
Well, you're 9 years old then, right?
Yeah, I was 9 years old.
Who's on your team? Who'd you beat?
Oh, we beat Winnipeg, actually. It was the team from Winnipeg. I think it was the Winnipeg Jets, they were called at the time. I remember they had these two brothers, the Schaefer brothers were on that team. But on my team, it was Logan Couture was on my team. Brian Cameron, who I played major junior with, Daryl Borden, who was a high first round pick to the OHL. So we had some pretty good players in that tournament. Yeah, that was it. Angelo Esposito, who played World Juniors. Everybody knows his career when he was drafted, played up a year. So that was kind of the tournament.
So, Lindsey, I've been studying my alpine skiing. Don't worry, I won't stick to 9-year-old hockey here. But that's a really seminal moment, that tournament in Edmonton, Alberta, that PK won. For you, 9 years old, obviously takes me to, and PK got the question right when you said, what's my, what did I want to be when I grow up? And it was Picabo Street, as you said, PK. That was a great answer on the GQ interview series. Tell me about 9 years old meeting Picabo, and also about Torino and the role she played in your top 10 finish after a really bad spill.
Yeah, I mean, skiing wasn't on TV in the US, so I just kind of saw highlights, but Picabo was, the thing back when I was growing up. And I waited in line at my local ski shop, and I waited in line for like 3 hours, and I met her for a minute and a half. And from then on, I just wanted to be exactly like her. I mean, my dad thinks that I was always driven, but really the tipping point for me was meeting her and just wanting to be like her. And she definitely had a huge role in my career. Again, as you said, in 2006 in the Olympics, I crashed and I was airlifted to the hospital, and I thought my career was over. And she beat my mom there. She was there first and comforted me and told me everything was going to be okay. And it's pretty exceptional that, your idol, someone that inspired your career, shows up like that and on such a big moment, and was very, very appreciative. So she's had a huge role in my life and in my career.
PK, by the way, as host of NHL Trivia and expert interviewer yourself, you take over at any point along the way. About courage, though, I lost. You had this great thing you did with Axel Lund Svindal up at Kitzbühel at the top of the Hahnenkamm, and it was chilling to hear him say how the starting hut grows quiet. It's the only quiet one, he said, that he can think of. And I would love your sense of standing there, looking down the mountain, and where you find that ability, Lindsey, to face death. It's not just danger. You face death when you take a downhill run. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic for PK and I when I was racing. I was definitely crashing a lot, but the thing for me is that I love adrenaline. I'm a thrill seeker. I love pushing myself to the limit.
She's nuts, Ron. She's nuts.
I don't know. When I stand in the starting gate, I feel at home. That's where I'm supposed to be. And it gives me such immense confidence. And I feel like I'm on top of the world and I can do anything. And I could crash, I could die, but I choose not to think about those things. I choose to think about being free and being happy. And like I said, that's where I feel most at home, is in the starting gate of a downhill.
Do you have, actually, it's a really important question, because Rise, your new book, will be out, and you've done such great work, Lindsey, for young women to be strong and ambitious and brave in those circumstances. I always think, for you to be safe as a woman and to be someone as a woman. These are almost like agendas that could be running counter to one another. Again, how do you reconcile that, putting yourself out there the way you do, both as an athlete and as an individual, and being a woman?
Yeah, it's a hard balance. I always try to be number one myself. I share my life with people, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like my story or aren't going to like me, and that's okay. Not everyone has to like you. I've kind of eventually over time gotten used to that fact. I was definitely not, I'm a people pleaser. So it's been hard for me to accept that point that people are going to hate you. Especially in the past couple of years, there's been some controversial stories and just controversial stuff in general, and gotten a lot of hate, especially also for my personal life, more so than, my skiing. And that's kind of crept into my professional life. But, that's just the balance that I think athletes have to face these days. Social media is totally different, and it's a game changer. And just the way media is in general is a game changer. And look at PK and I, we both have our production companies. We're, we're doing so much outside of sport while, PK is still competing at his best. And it's, you almost have to embrace that. You if you want to be successful, that has to be a part of your repertoire. It's no longer good enough just to be, doing interviews after a game or after a race. So I think that we both embrace it and we use it, to just tell our story. And like I said, there's going to be people that don't like us, but that's fine.
It's great. Go on, PK, about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing for Lindsey and I is we just tried authenticity is the most important. And I think that, from the very start of my career, I've always been one to know that you have to be authentic. You got to be authentic to yourself because, whether it's in sports or just in real life, the people that you want respect from are the people that pay attention to the things that you're doing and if it's real or not. And I think, with Lindsey and I, what you see is kind of what you get. We love to have fun. We love to share our lives, the parts that we want to with our fans. And as we should, because in the world of social media, it's going to be out there anyway. So you're not keeping anything private. So, I think that we've just chosen to embrace it. I think if you fight it sometimes, it puts you, you can waste a lot of energy. So rather than fighting to keep our lives extremely private, we just protect the parts that we want to and everything else we share with our fans because they give us a reason to. They're so supportive and they're the base of why we're able to, compete at sports for a living.
So the NHL Trivia has been a hoot. Commissioner Gary Bettman, Wes McCauley, the referee, and stars, Jay Baruchel, Michael Keaton. It's amazing how you're doing this. So tell me about that.
Well, first of all, I've never hosted a game show before. I have done some hosting before, but nothing like what you do, Ron. But I've happened to have some experience doing that, but never done a trivia show. So to do a trivia show, via Zoom from your house, I didn't really know how that was going to happen the first time we tried. But I have to give the NHL a ton of credit. Because no one saw this pandemic coming. And if someone did, how are you supposed to prepare for it? So for us to still be able to put together some decent content, for NHL fans and sports fans was great and has been great, but it's been better than decent, in my opinion. To have the personalities that we've had come on, to have the fans win prizes. I know not everybody's a winner, but you have to make the trivia show. You have to make it tough. You can't just be giving away prizes. So, the questions are going to demand and ask you about your NHL knowledge and your sports knowledge. And I think fans are having a great time with it. So Lindsey's been kind enough to help out and arrange the lighting for me and help me out with. I'm horrible on Zoom, so she's always got to come in and set up the account. And
it was definitely a little dicey the first 2 episodes. I was like, trying to get the good connection, internet connection, to get the lighting right. But he's done an amazing job. And I will say it's really difficult to be, in your empty living room hosting a show. He brings so much energy and it's really impressive. So I'm pretty proud of him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And your bedside manner, PK, when you break the news, I'm sorry, that's like that poor woman that's a Patrice Bergeron fan, right? And the question to get the tickets was, how many Selkies has Patrice won? I don't know the answer. It's my livelihood, and I didn't know it was 3 or 4.
I guess the hope is, Ron, that fans watch the show and prepare. Fans that come on to want to win. You got to prepare the best way you can because – in a way, we do throw them a bone. If you're a Boston Bruins fan, most of the time we're asking you questions about the Boston Bruins. So, it's not just all NHL questions. So I'm hoping we gave away some more prizes this week. We did the recording yesterday for the show. Maybe someone in this household was involved in the recording of the show, but we gave away some prizes. So hopefully we can give away more with weeks to come.
And Lindsey, you actually make a really good point about PK, by himself, solo, trying to engage this atmosphere of big. It was neat watching that Global Citizen One World concert, wasn't it? All the musicians alone.
Yeah, we really enjoyed being a part of that. And I think all of those, concerts and things everyone's doing to raise money is incredible. And we were happy to be a part of that. And PK did a good job doing push-ups with me on his back.
Yeah, some of your workouts are unbelievable, and we've shown that too. You know, I saw you list on the GQ show. "Fall" was the song. If you were to pick one, do you ever ski to music, Lindsey?
Not really. I usually listen to music before my race if I'm feeling a little bit sluggish, but I usually have to focus pretty hard to be prepared to race downhill. So usually not.
Ron, I don't think any song could get me to go down that hill that fast.
Well, you're going skydiving, so never mind worrying about the hill till your career's over, of course. But I know you're going to go skydiving with Lindsey. There's no doubt about that. My song is Phil Collins' "Take Me Home," by the way. Just if you're ever skiing and you want the fall line, that's the song that'll get you.
Good one. That's a good one, Ron.
Hey, 2010 Vancouver. A lot of my friends who are skiers, and I ski, but not like you do, and they do. They said it must have been amazing for you, Bib 16, 2010 Whistler, the downhill, and Julia Mancuso's out there with the time to beat. Were you aware of that? Was that rivalry something that fueled you or focused you at the start hut?
Absolutely. I mean, I knew that because we only had one training run, and I had one and she was second. So I knew that if she, are you spilling all over the place?
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
So I knew that if she was winning, I would have to beat her to win. And so I knew when I was in the starting gate that she was in the lead. And I'd remembered in the past a couple of big moments where she had beaten me and how disappointed I was. And Julie and I had kind of always had this little rivalry thing. We were like yin and yang, you know, she's like a surfer and I'm like militant, working out, like, you know, organized, and she's like, you know, very free and different than me. So we just always kind of butted heads, and I wanted to beat her. I wanted to win that Olympic gold medal, and I knew I had to get past her to do it. So yes, it did fuel me. And sometimes that's what you need, you know, sometimes you just need a little bit of extra fuel to the fire to get you to accomplish the results that you're looking for.
What's the situation with your mastery of Lake Louise? Why did you feel so good at Louise?
I mean, maybe just I like Canada.
She's always,
you know?
Hey, Ron, she's always had a love affair with Canada. Canadians.
No, I always felt at home there, you know. It was so peaceful and beautiful on the track. You know, as I said, ski racing wasn't on TV in the US except for one race. It was like Outside Network or something growing up, and Lake Louise was the only race that I usually got to see. And so I always visualized it and analyzed it growing up. And when I got there, I felt like I already knew the track. So I always had just a really good feel for it. I understood where I could push the line, where I couldn't. I mean, I've like fallen and still won. Like that place is just crazy. One time I had a bloody lip and I still won. Like the place, just, I love Lake Louise. It's one of my favorite places of all time.
Where's your favorite place on the road, PK?
Favorite place on the road. Wow. Love going to Vancouver. Always love going out west. I think Vancouver's always nice because we always spend 2 or 3 days out there when I'm coming from the east or from Nashville. Nashville's great to visit. Toronto, hometown, obviously always great. Vegas is always fun to go to. If I had to pick one favorite place to go, Boston's great too. I mean, I love playing in the NHL, Ron. I mean, I love going into every city, but if I had to pick one city that I love to go to, I'd pick Toronto or Montreal. One of those two.
I have such a vivid memory of you when Winnipeg came back in 2011, and you're in there with the Montreal Canadiens and you're doing your calisthenics before the game. You're so full of joy to play the game. So I can tell anywhere will do the trick. And you see this photo as I show this photo? That's you know what that is. Tell Lindsey what that photo's about.
Lindsey probably doesn't know what that is, but so that was the 2009 World Juniors. Was in Ottawa. So where the Senators play, it's at the same rink. And we were losing 5-4 to Russia in the gold medal game. And with I think it was 4 seconds left. Was it 4 seconds, Ron?
5 seconds, yeah.
Let's
call it 4.
5 seconds left. Jordan Eberle, who plays for the Islanders now. Ryan Ellis kept the puck in. You know Ryan Ellis, who I played with in Nashville, kept the puck in at the blue line, chipped it down the wall. Tavares on his backhand. You know who Tavares is. She knows who Tavares is. Because we talked about Johnny when there was the whole thing about him possibly not re-signing with the Islanders. She's like, what's up with Tavares?
Yeah, there's a whole summer of debate.
Johnny gets the puck on the wall on his backhand and no look turns and just flips it towards the net. The defender goes to block it, bounces, goes to Jordan Eberle, forehand, backhand, and puts it in the net with 5 seconds left to go to tie it. As he comes up the wall, I'm like the first player to him. And like his eyes, I mean, if I didn't have a visor on, his eyes would have just knocked me out. His eyes were out of his head. And we jumped up, and then that's when you saw me when I was in the air with him. So we ended up winning that game in shootout and going on. Actually, that was a semifinal game. We played Sweden in the gold medal game. We beat Sweden, I think 5-0 or something. So that was a huge game.
PK was incredible, Lindsay, in that tournament. He was an all-star. They named one at every position, and he had 9 points and just a force for Canada. And it is the most thrilling, I think, World Junior victory Canada's ever had, 2009. So some other names. Bianca Andreescu. It's funny, Lindsay. We have Brooke Henderson. We have a number of great female leads on our sports scene right now. And you saw Bianca, so I would love your thought on what that was about, the U.S. Open victory.
I mean, I think she's incredible. She seems very determined. I like her attitude. She brings it every time, and she doesn't give up. She's definitely had some injuries, and sometimes she gets down, but she always fights her way back up. And I just find that to be really impressive. And I'm personally a huge fan of tennis. I love the pressure and, being down break point and set point and match point. I love seeing the emotions on the athletes' faces. I think that's one of the most thrilling sports to watch, besides obviously hockey. But I think she's bound for great things for sure.
Yeah. The mental challenge when Serena was starting to rally on her. Can you imagine a young player like Bianca having to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine playing against Serena. I would personally be shaking in my boots, but I think being young and, kind of saying I'm just going to swing for the fences and see what happens is sometimes the best way to go, because, you're not going to outmuscle her, but you can, if you keep swinging, you might get it, and she definitely never gave up and kept swinging, and it was impressive.
You want in on that, PK, or I'll lead you to?
I'll just say this. The one thing about Bianca, I think that helps her is her lower body strength. She's in very good condition, and I think you talk about Serena Williams, who's very, very strong, who's always been in tip-top shape and just stronger and bigger than everybody else in her field. I think that Bianca has, you can see that she's got strong legs. She's got the,
she brings the power for sure.
She has the power, the mobility because of her youth and all those things. So I think the key for her is just continuing to take care of her body and maintain that fitness level, and sky's the limit.
I want to ask you about Jordan, but before I do that, because you mentioned the lower body strength, I think of Sidney Crosby, right, PK? For sure, Yager in the day. Yager was a bull. But Yager liked to watch Yzerman. He thought he was the perfect, balance of both arms and legs and everything. He thought he was the perfect hockey player. Who do you find amazes you with their core or lower body strength as a defenseman trying to deal with them?
Well, I mean, Crosby, I always like to use Crosby. I know that Sid and I have had battles in the playoffs, and, I have such respect for him. I don't want to take anything away from the Connor McDavids of the world and these guys, because these are elite players. It's definitely the next wave. And you could argue that maybe some of these guys are best players in the league. But just in my time of playing in the league and, the past 11 years that I've playing against Sidney Crosby consistently in the East and in the playoffs, what he's accomplished as a player. And a lot of that has from his ability. I watched some of the old clips and, a series when he was playing against San Jose and the stuff that he's done in big games. It's second to none. His strength, whether it's natural, whether it's his commitment to working out, his leg and core strength separates him from everybody. I mean, he's one of those guys that's literally impossible to pin down low. You have to contain and have a good stick. And when you play against him enough, you understand his tendencies. But as far as leg strength goes, I don't think there's been anybody other than maybe he or Yager that have been as good at protecting the puck as those two guys. They're unbelievable at it.
Excellent. Let's close with Jordan then. And Picabo Street actually was on a committee. Nike had a group they put together at the Atlanta Olympics with Michael Jordan, and Andre Agassi was on it. Nolan Ryan, great pitcher, was on it. Jackie Joyner-Kersey was on it. But Picabo, that was a real breakthrough moment for your hero, Lindsay. Jordan, I'd like you first, Lindsay. Have you watched the doc? I know you're busy with Law and Order, but have you watched it?
Yeah, we've been patiently waiting every Sunday for it to come out, and it's so impressive. I was asked a question a couple days ago in an interview, what would be the singular sports moment that you would have loved to have seen? And I said any one of Michael Jordan's amazing moments in his career. I'm so happy that this documentary came out, because you've never really had that look inside, what it's taken him to get there, and his team as well. It's obviously not just him, but still, he was able to do things that no one else has done. And I think a lot of times also, as time goes on, you forget what those things were that set him apart. And I think this documentary, it's very clear who the greatest of all time is, and that's Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
PK?
Yeah, there's no question. I think that when you look at the competitive nature of sports, and how we value athletes, everything that he's done in his career. We're watching the documentary now, and it's talking about all the things behind the scenes, but the winning, just how he won and how much he won, it just separates him from everybody.
His commitment.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. His singular focus was winning basketball. And, he changed, he started working out harder. He did whatever it took to be the best. And he said, he doesn't want there to be any discussion. He let his basketball speak for itself. And it clearly did. Kobe, I think, was the only one that came close as far as trying to emulate him. And still, it's just not really a comparison. MJ is MJ. He's the greatest.
Yeah. And just his how sure he was of himself.
Yeah.
I think, it's one thing, that's the fine line between being cocky and arrogant. He was sure of himself, but then he delivered. And he delivered in a way that no one else has delivered. Big game winning shots, bringing his teammates along. That's also a challenge that everybody doesn't understand, is being as elite as he was, winning MVPs and scoring titles. When you don't win a championship and you get beaten up like that by the Detroit Pistons, now you're being asked, can you grab your teammates and make them better? And he not only made them better, he won 6 championships. So, it's pretty amazing.
Isn't it fun? My greatest career privilege has been to listen to athletes talk about other athletes, because I know the respect that you have. And I'll just close by thanking you both for all that you're doing, for the Meals for Doctors in Montreal, for all that you're doing. There's too much to mention right here, Lindsay and PK. But they say in our business, show business, I'll give you this because you're now TV stars, the greatest things you need are either talent or charisma. But if you're lucky, you have both. And that's you two. So keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. That's so nice of you. We really appreciate it. We love being on the show.
Yeah, and I'll make sure that Lindsay tapes Saturday night in hockey there every night. She's gonna tape it even if I'm playing, so we'll be able to watch you. Okay.
We both agree, you and I. We're gonna see you sometime this summer on the ice, PK. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, PK.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Just a joy there, PK and Lindsay. Thank you for that. Coming up on our next show, it's a mix of advice for elite athletes, especially those in transition, but it's really for all of us who are facing abrupt change right now. Melinda Harrison and Grant Klitzum. Melinda's an Olympic swimmer. Grant, a former NHL player. That's who they were, but it's not who they are. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific on Friday. Our song lyric to close, this is my favorite song for skiing. I used to try and find the fall line and go through the moguls to this Phil Collins tune. It's called Take Me Home, and the lyric I like is, there's a fire been burning right outside my door. I can't see but feel it, and it helps to keep me warm. That's our story for now. Enjoy your day, and thanks for watching.